what impact did Paul have on the early church? Although many people know that Paul wrote many letters, which now forms much of the New Testament, what is often missed is how these have influenced the rise of the early church, due to how he, first, shaped the church's theology, second, shifted the church from a Jewish to a Greco-Roman institution, and third, shaped the way the church was structured, internally and physically too. So, these are all important, but who was Paul? Quote, "I have become all things to all men," unquote, said Paul. He was a Pharisee, a Roman citizen, a tent maker, Jewish, and he was from born in Tarsus of Sicily. He was zealous for God, and Tarsus was known for their goats and famous philosophers, both of which became important to him in his profession as a tent maker and when he became a theologian. First point, Paul shaped the church's theology. Although he was a powerful missionary, his work as a theologian is sometimes underestimated. He put an emphasis on God's grace, the works of the cross, and understanding the status of the law, and this had huge impacts on the development of Christian doctrine. Against Jerusalem, he was against the church, and he contradicted the church in Jerusalem, which was led primarily by followers of Jesus in his life, and this caused many controversies. He put a focus on the cross. He preached Christ died for sins, and he rose from the dead for salvation. Another conflict was baptism. Quote, "For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel," unquote, said Paul. The disciples who were alive at Jesus' birth during Jesus' life, continued temple traditions, and Paul was against this, and very much so. So where did he get his authority for saying all this from, though? Logically, there was very little, but spiritually, how could he have really known if the Damascus Road about the Damascus Road, if it had his experience on the road to Damascus, if his was fake. There's also the fact that 2 Corinthians 12, 2-4, says something about him being brought to heaven and being given special teachings. His theology of angels and his knowledge of the law were important too. He said angels came to Moses and gave the law as mediators. He said it was because Christ was perfect, and he said, though, that because Christ was perfect, he superseded the law, and he makes this point of the angels in Acts 7, Galatians 3 and Hebrews 2. Because they were from the angels, or so he said, he accused those who focused on them as worshipping angels over God, which they would find very problematic too. We can also see other examples of angels being messengers in the Old Testament. Second point, Paul shifted the church from a Jewish to a Greco-Roman institution. His diverse background and his knowledge of the law made him a cultural chameleon. He regularly talked about his knowledge of the law, but he also made common references to Greek and Roman writers. These helped him bring non-Jewish to Christianity. Quote, "I am the apostle to the Gentiles," unquote, said Paul in Romans 11:13. Such was seen in his interaction with the Essenians about the temple to the unknown God from Acts 22 to 31. Many of Paul's theological arguments used Greco-Roman rhetorical structures and based metaphors on Greco-Roman cultures, norms, and laws, too. Third, Paul reformed the structure of the church, and this was also with patronage, not only his letters. As he evangelized, Romans brought patron-client structures into the church, as Paul did too. This let him use the core aspect of society. This let the Romans use the core aspect of their society in churches. In Philemon, quote, "The letter presupposes that Philemon was the patron of the church that met in his home. Further, the letter might suggest that Philemon was Paul's patron," unquote, said Stephen Marcotte. He also it has also been suggested that this form allowed the early church to flourish. He played the role of the patron by facilitating travel for clients or church members, and he even makes this even makes an impact in language today that would have been originally used because of the origins in the patron-client networks. So, although many people know that Paul wrote much of the letters making up the New Testament, what they don't know is that how this changed and formed the church itself because of his shaping the church's theology, shifting the church from a Jewish to a Greco-Roman institution, and changing the way the church is structured. Thank you.